Hi, I want to walk you through a little bit on how to analyze political cartoons. From the data in the survey that I ran out to you on Monday, it indicated that most of you had experience with political cartoons and could identify what a political cartoon is, but I still want to work through them and make sure we're all on the same page. By doing so, then I'm going to do this pretty quickly, and then I'm going to set you loose to analyze a political cartoon in class. So as we deal with the Gilded Age, we've been looking at a variety of angles, certainly learning about the factors that cause it, some of the events that emerged during it, a lot of the economic and business terms of it. But as you have done in your homework video lecture, you're learning sort of about the politics of it. So one of the sort of critical ways that we examine how people felt about a topic at the time period in which they're living is to look through the media. And we can look at newspapers, and we can look at photographs, and we can look at political cartoons. So my goal today is to kind of have you look a bit at a couple political cartoons so you're starting to feel a little more comfortable with them and to better understand them. I think whenever we analyze a non-text, we really have to focus on the details in a different way than we would when we're dealing with a text. So this method that I use is one that Mrs. Kiefer and I came up with several years ago. If you've had Mrs. Kiefer, then you would have used this method with her. If you had Mr. Hanley previously, I can't speak to exactly what that method would have looked like. But this is one that she and I use. And it's a 3-step process. And so anytime I have you analyze a cartoon, I'm going to ask for you to use this 3-step process. And so the first step is to observe, right? We take a really careful look at what's going on in the cartoon so that we can look specifically for sourcing information. And so what do I mean by that? I mean, do we see an artist anywhere? Do we see a year on the cartoon where it's published, or does it say it in another place? Do we have a sense of where this cartoon is even featured, like in what publication at the time period? So as you look at this cartoon, I would ask you, what sourcing information do you see? If we go to 1B, we move into the next step, which is what do you see? And when I ask students, what do you see? I literally want you to identify item by item what you see. I see a man with a hat. I see a lever. I see, like, you would be very clear as to what you see, and you would literally label or name off all of the things that you see in the cartoon. And the goal of this is to really dig in and try to better understand what's going on in the image. And then to 1C, what can you read? This is where we look for words that are in the cartoon, and we would write those words down very clearly. So I would write Pullman, and I would write low wages, etc. And I'm always going to work hard to provide you with copies of the cartoon that are larger size so that you can really deal with the detail in the cartoon. So our first step was to observe. Our second step then is to reflect. I would look at this cartoon and I would go, what do I already know about this topic? And so 2A, I'd really answer that question. What do I know? Well, if you reflect back on just the past few days of what we've studied on industrialization, there's some topics you know a little bit about. You know something about what's happening with the labor, maybe not in detail, but you know something about the fact that there's really no minimum wage laws because this is the era of laissez-faire. And so there's a lot of labor that's emerging at the time period. You may not even know who Mr. Pullman is, but at least you know something. And so then I go to 2B, looking at my observations, what's actually happening in the image? And so in 2B, this is where you describe what you see. It's not like the previous slide on 1B where I list what I see, right? Which would have just been, I see a man. He's a man with a hat. When I'm looking at this one, I'm describing the man who is taking this vise and he's twisting it. There's somebody stuck in the vise. He doesn't look very pleasant. He looks like he's being squished between low wages and high rent. And then I come back to the next step, which is to question. So we've gone from observe tell me exactly what you see. 2, reflect what I already know and can I describe what's happening? And then we move into step 3, which is to question, where you're really trying to get at what's happening here. So in 3A, what's the artist trying to communicate with the image? Like basically, what's the overall message? What's the artist trying to tell you is happening? And then in 3B, what other questions could I ask that might help me interpret this image? Like, it's okay that you don't know everything about a cartoon. In fact, it'd be pretty impressive if you did. So I really want to encourage you to start building questions. You know, in this case, if you don't know who Pullman is, who's Pullman, right? Why would he be squeezing a vice? You might be able to add in a little bit more, but it's always important that you dig in on questions because I think questions really shows a deep level of analysis. Now, when you look at the cartoon in this way, and I told you that I'm always going to try to make the cartoon a little bit bigger, you might see some other words like capitalism and monopoly and wage slavery. So anyway, I just wanted to draw your attention. This is the employee, etc. So hopefully this helps you kind of walk through this 3-step process, one, which I'm going to hold you accountable to in class, to observe, to reflect, and to question as we look at these cartoons to better understand what it is that's happening in the Gilded Age and what does the media have to say about it. So if you have questions, let me know. I just want to let you know that these images as well, like the slide deck, are going to be posted on Google Classroom so you can see them a little bit better. You're going to be working with another cartoon or a couple cartoons today. And as you do that, those documents are actually also on Google Classroom because it'll give you an ability to like zoom into them and see them a little bit better. All right. I will see you soon. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to help you.